Ladies and gentlemen, theys and thems, thank you for clicking on this video and get ready for another Pride-centered video. Did we discuss Pride last week? We did. Are we discussing it again this week? We are. And it is mostly for two reasons. One, the goons on the left are constantly begging for attention, and I am simply giving that to them. I am fulfilling that need, that desire, that request. So actually, you're welcome. But two, while I was making last week's episode, I had a secondary point of how like companies and the government and everyone who breathes panders to the LGBTQ community. And I felt like that just could be its own whole episode. So that it was exactly what we are doing today. Because I want to look at if when companies change their logos on X, do they really mean it? Is that coming from a sincere place in their heart? Or are they pandering in order to keep the hairy armpit girl on TikTok off their back? Watch the episode to find out. But before we get into all of that, this is your reminder to please like and subscribe. If you are on Spotify, make sure that you leave a... My cats are always interrupting these videos in some way, shape, or form, which is another reason why you should leave a positive review on Spotify and follow the videos over there, because they're just so cute and they're just a bundle of joy and you know you love them. And all of my other social medias are always linked in the down bar down below, so make sure you check those out as well. And with all of that, my name is Noelle. This is Just Say No. Let's get into it. So it really does feel like on May 31st at 11:59 p.m., every CEO of every company in the West morph into one big rainbow blob. And they all just start hive mind thinking, change logo to flag, change logo to rainbow. It's just like, it's so in unison. And it feels super insincere to me personally. And I'm curious if the LGs and the Bs also feel that way. I personally believe that much like posting a black square on your Instagram back in 2020, it is nothing more than a virtue signal to say, hi, look at me, I'm better than you. I have moral superiority. But you don't. What are you doing? You're doing nothing. You're giving zilch. But I do actually think that this is changing. The amorphous blob of rainbowdom that these companies tend to create is shrinking. It is shrinking drastically. And I want to take a look at that because it demonstrates, one, that they don't care. They were just doing this for a profit. And two, that when we as a society band together and say, hey, we're tired of this, we don't actually like this, and it's kind of annoying having it shoved down our throat every single June, they'll respond because they care about their bottom line. They will respond. So I want to look at a list of companies who, just a few that have decided to not change their logo on X this year. We have Hollister, Bank of America, Xbox, IBM, HBO, LinkedIn. Those are just a couple. Nike didn't do it this year, I know. Like there's Verizon. I'm not sure if they did it last year. I know that they've done it before. I just don't know if this is the first year that they have opted not to do it or if it was last year. But more and more companies are saying, hey, this is actually harming our image and this is harming our bottom line, so we're going to choose not to engage. And something that is always interesting, and this is not the first year this has happened, but this is the first year that there's actually been a comment on it. We're going to look at BMW, for example, because they're the ones that put out this statement. But all of these large car companies, I think specifically, will change their logos for their US and Western branches, but they will never change it for their Middle East branch. And that's always very interesting, isn't it? It's interesting, but it's not exactly surprising considering in most places in the Middle East, the consequence of being gay is death or jail, with the exception of Israel, which is so ironic. That said, somebody called BMW out on this, and here is what they state. In recognition of LGBTQ plus Pride Month, we have decided to take a clear stance and change the logo of our international communication and marketing channels on behalf of all BMW Group markets and brands until the end of June. The international channels can be accessed worldwide and thus show the logo change in all markets worldwide. However, as is customary with such communication and marketing activities, countries, it is at the discretion of our sales companies and independent distributors to decide if they wish to join centrally initiated communications and marketing campaigns or not. But the recommendation of the headquarter is to change the logo in all markets. This is an established practice at the BMW Group, which also takes into consideration market-specific legal regulations and country-specific cultural aspects. They are blatantly saying they're not doing it there because it is not culturally accepted. I don't want to read too much into it. This could mean something else, but are they also saying it's not legally accepted? Because that would be true. It is quite actually illegal in some parts of the Middle East to be gay. Isn't it interesting how the places who arguably need pride movements the least, places like the US, Canada, the West in general, that are very accepting of the LGBTQ group. I mean, they have every single legal right as a straight person in these areas. They get the most pride, and places in which you could literally be beheaded for being gay. Silence. They don't say a word about it out there. Now, on one hand, that's fair. I'd be scared too, but it's just interesting because they say the US is so homophobic. If you watched last week's episode, we talked all about how bold they get at pride parades and the types of things they wear between like BDSM gear and like kinks and whatnot. You seem pretty safe. You seem pretty safe on the streets of the holy shit. Am I Joe Biden? What just happened? My God. Leave me Joe Biden's spirit. Amen. Y'all seem pretty safe on the streets in the US is what I was trying to say. But with companies making more of a shift to not necessarily engage Pride Month as much, you have to wonder, is it because of the very, very strong rising societal pressure to get back to the status quo for the month of June? You have to think so, right? Because as I said at the beginning, these companies just care about their bottom line, which is fair. They're a company. That's what they're supposed to care about. I mean, my God. But we are at a point where companies are finding themselves in a bit of a sticky situation because gay isn't profitable anymore. But also, if you stop doing it, the wild, wild lefties are going to come and loot your store. Now, in reality, that is probably far-fetched. Now, they do loot and burn things down, but it's just not as common as, say, writing a 3-page long expose on why Target has actually been transphobic all along and bigoted and what have you, and post it on change.org calling for the CEO to step down. That is more likely to happen. And so what you gonna do? You've got yourself in a sticky situation at this point. Now, the right, although not perfect, tends to have a simpler approach of just like, don't shop there anymore. And we kind of leave it at that. And that seems to be more effective. Bud Light, of course, is one of the best examples of this. They very strongly course corrected. And even Target, after last year, did Target get hit hard last year? Because of the outrage that they incurred last year, many Targets around the nation have elected to not do Pride sections at all this year. And I must say, it is so nice to be able to walk into Target during the month of June and not be forced to taste the rainbow. I enjoy that a lot. But I do want to talk about Target very briefly because it is a very interesting example, because they have been very staunchly Pride and all of this crap centric for years now. And all of a sudden they stopped. And it was because last year people had had enough. They walked into Target and found tuck-friendly bathing suits displayed in the Pride section, front center at the front of the store. They didn't like that very much. Imagine this. You are at the store with your kid and you're kind of just shopping around because the Pride sections tend to be in the tween, teeny bopper sort of sections. And your kid picks up this bathing suit and says, "Mommy, what does tuck-friendly mean?" And now you're in an uncomfortable situation. Do you explain this? Do you try to avoid it? What do you do now? And people who are advocates of this would probably argue that that's the point, that it's the point to expose children to this. And if you believe that, you're a goddamn freak. And real quick, for those of you who aren't deep in the trenches of this conversation, like I tend to find myself, a tucking bathing suit is a special type of bathing suit for those of us who have ding-dongs and wish we didn't. And it allows you to just tuck it away. So yeah, now imagine your kid is asking you what that is and you have to figure it out. Now, obviously the tag isn't so blatant. It's not giving like illustrations or demonstrations of anything of that sort. But it was the last straw. And honestly, that is truly what it comes down to. Is it's been years and years and years and years of just like slowly progressing and getting more and more obscene, for lack of a better word. And it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It was just the final last thing. And people were like, we're done. This is insane. We're done with this. And they really, really, really stopped going to Target. And it got so bad last year that certain Targets, mine included again, either got rid of their Pride display mid-June or moved it to the back of the store to where it wasn't so in your face. Especially when you consider the fact that these displays tended to be in the preteen, teenager section. A lot of parents felt like it was grooming. And I want everyone to keep in mind that grooming does not necessarily mean grooming for sexual interactions or anything like that. It could be grooming you to prepare you to accept a certain ideology. And that's exactly what was happening. And people had had enough. And Target reacted this way because at the end of the day, they want to stay in business. And gay just is not selling anymore. And honestly, I kind of want this episode to be a message of hope for a lot of people, because I know that a lot of us are really, 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 really tired of all of this stuff. But the groundswell is moving. Things are switching. Companies aren't selling this stuff so much anymore. It's not being pushed as hard anymore. And so these are all good things. These are all good things. And before we close out the episode, I do want to touch on the last group of people who are pandering to the gays, which is our government. And that's always the most fun. Because I just cannot be the only person who finds it incredibly cringe-inducing when Joe Biden tweets things out about Pride. This is an 80-year-old man who has a lengthy track record of sincerely homophobic beliefs and a voting record. And yet, when he all of a sudden switches it up and says, go Pride, y'all just fall for it. Y'all really are stupid enough to just fall for it like that. It's insane. And what's honestly even more insane is that Biden is painted as this gentle, kind, respectable old man who just wants everyone to be happy, when his track record says the exact opposite. And Trump is painted as this homophobic, bigot, evil Satan spawn, when his track record also says the exact opposite. And honestly, maybe that will be next week's episode. Maybe we will actually do a full month of Pride-centered content accidentally. We will see. I'll see if there's enough there for a full episode or not. What I'm ultimately trying to get at is, are y'all buying this? Or do you see it for what it is, which is pandering? Let me know, my little gabies, in the comments down below, if you buy into the whole shtick or if you have two brain cells to rub together. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, for hanging out for another episode. And like I said, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. And I will talk to all of you guys next Monday. Bye.